Pia, Bill. If you can, go in the chat and just tell us where you're joining from so we know where you're at. And is it cold? Is it warm where you are? How's the weather today? I am in Honolulu, Los Angeles. I'm in Santa Monica. It's a little brisk, you know. Anything under 70 degrees and I get chilly because I'm an Angelino. And I think it might be like 68. So, I mean, I'm freezing. Welcome, everybody, to PR Tech Wednesdays, the weekly webinar where we discuss the latest in PR tech. If it's Wednesday, it's PR Tech Wednesdays. I'm your host, Eric Schwartzman. We do this almost every Wednesday from 12 to 1 Pacific. It's free, and you can sign up and join us live at prtechwednesday.com. Today, we're joined by members of the National Millennial Community, and I want to give a special thanks to Bill Amata of the IW Group for arranging this session for us today. The hashtag for today's session will be Webinar Wednesday, singular. I have a really special bonus for you at the end of today's session, so stick around until the very end. It's a free tool that will help you optimize your content for Google search, and it's only available to attendees of the session. If you're attending this session on Zoom, I posted links to the live streams on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So like, comment, and share. Let's get this session trending. In May, the Pew Research Center published their latest research on Generation Z. 1 in 10 eligible voters in the 2020 electorate will be part of a new generation in America, Generation Z. Born after 1996, most members of this generation aren't old enough to vote, but the oldest among them turns 23 this year, which means 24 million may cast ballots in November. Unlike millennials who came of age during the Great Recession, this new generation was in line to inherit a strong economy with record low unemployment. But that all has changed as COVID-19 reshapes the American social, political, and economic landscape. Instead of looking ahead to the world of opportunity, Gen Z now peers, like us, into an uncertain future. Gen Z represents the leading edge of the country's changing racial and ethnic makeup. 52% are non-white, non-Hispanic white, down from 61% of millennials. 1 in 4 Gen Zers are Hispanic, 14% are Black, 6% are Asian, and 5 are some other race or 2 or more races. Overall, members of Gen Z look similar to millennials in their political preferences, particularly when it comes to the upcoming 2020 election. Among registered voters, 61% of Gen Z voters, ages 18 to 23, said they were definitely or probably going to vote for the Democratic candidate for president in the 2020 election, while about a quarter, 22%, said they were planning to vote for Trump. Millennial voters were much more likely to say they plan to support a Democrat in November than Trump, 58% to 25%. But today, we're going to focus on what Generation Z expects from companies and brands, what they like, dislike, and why. So let's get started. Again, we have a panel of members from the National Millennial Community here with us today. And my first question is going to be for Macy Franklin from Hanover College and Monica Rodriguez from Cal State Northridge. And the question, and why don't we start with you, Macy, is what are some companies or brands that are really easy to do business with and why?
Okay, so a couple of the businesses that I would like to highlight that I personally do business with quite frequently is Amazon and Redbubble. Amazon has Prime services, which is cheaper for students. And they both have a website and an app that are the same and save your account info, like the items in your bag and your favorite items. On Amazon, you can buy almost anything that you want. And it's usually cheaper than buying it from the actual seller. And Redbubble supports online artists, and they have quick conflict resolution. I had a package that I hadn't received yet, and they sent me an email and they gave me like a discount on my next order. And both of them are also fun to just browse all of the different products that they have. And that is why I would say that Amazon and Redbubble have the best experience for me.
Can you tell us what is Redbubble? I don't even know what Redbubble is. Tell us about Redbubble.
Redbubble is like an online service where you can get different stationery items. They have like stickers you can buy and like little desk things, and they have posters, and they have a lot of different artists for different topics of interest, like music or sports. So they have quite a bit of, it's mostly stationery products.
And just one final question on the Amazon thing. So do you have any misgivings about doing business with Amazon because of their competitive practices against mom and pop retailers who are often being driven out of business by their undercutting of pricing? Often they'll lose money on a sale just to grow their customer base. Does that bother you in any way?
I wouldn't say it bothers me personally, because they do have like the marketplace that does host some smaller companies. I don't have much against that, just because business is competitive. So, I mean, if you grow, you grow. And if you don't, you can't keep up with your competitors, then that's just what happens.
Monica, what about you? The question on the table for those who joined us late is, what are some companies or brands that are really easy to do business with, and why?
So for me, I also go onto Amazon, but I also like to zoom around and also purchase some Etsy too. So I like Etsy and Amazon because Etsy, you actually do get to support people who do handcrafts or make their own t-shirts or invitations and marketing supplies too. And you're supporting, it's like online version of mom and pop shops too, but from standpoint. And I also go on to my social media accounts. Like for example, I go on Instagram and I support artists who I like, their fan art or their artwork, and they have links to their own website online shop too, for people who draw, create, or if I'm really searching, right now I'm searching how to update my laptop and my desktop access too. So the information that I get in order to purchase a laptop or the next specs for what I'm upgrading, I would do research more on social media of Instagram or Pinterest or other platforms in order to see if people have liked them or what they've done. I also go on YouTube too to see what goes into the specs and educating me, like if this is a good buy or not too.
Just a note to our attendees. I have a list of questions I'm going to run through, but by all means, give us your questions as you have them. And just to make it easy for me, the chat room is open for sort of a back channel discussion about what we're talking about. But if you have a question, please use the Q&A function so I can easily pull those out. Our next question is going to be for Betsy Garcia. And the question is, what do you expect to find when you go to a company's website, blog, or podcast? And how does your experience with that website, blog, or podcast impact your perception of that organization?
Hi, Eric. So thank you for that question. It's a great question. So from a business standpoint and from a creator standpoint, now that I know what goes into like making the websites, making the blogs and the podcasts, I judge a lot of companies more harshly on their supporting material, because that's essentially what I feel like. If this is a company podcast if this is a company blog, it should be supportive of maybe the brand's values, some of the organizational goals. If, for example, I'll say QuickBooks, I'm using QuickBooks software and I'm going to their blog, in addition to maybe like, how-to tutorials, resources like that, I would like to see, case studies about like some of the smaller business that they help, maybe some personal essays from the creators or the writers or the people who use this platform. So it's more like supportive material of the brand's values or the organizational's goals.
Great. Albert, are you here?
I am here. How are you doing?
Good, good. The next question is for you. Do you expect companies to have a social media presence? And what makes a corporate social media presence effective?
Yeah, I put a lot of thought into this question, and I think the big thing too is that advertising and the landscape itself has changed dramatically within the past couple of years. So social media has allowed basically any brand, I mean, it's a free platform to personify themselves and give themselves a personality. So consumers aren't just being spoken to anymore, that now they can actually react, and companies can become dynamic and know how they need to react to this. So I think that, a company, big or small, should advertise themselves or at least have a presence on a social media platform. So I just started a new position recently for as a marketing analyst. And, one of the challenges that we have to come up with is, well, how do we not just talk to people, but actually engage? And I think, you can get people to like, comment, even polls. So, companies big and small have been doing this. I mean, in terms of like Twitter, you can get engagement from younger people. I know companies like such as Wendy's have kind of made it almost like they have the personality of a person rather than a company. And that's what's really exemplified, going above and beyond, and not just you're pushing out a product rather than saying, hey, there's people who work in this company and you're actually buying into a service and a brand, and you get to build up that reputation.
Albert, if you have a problem with a product, do you ever go to social media to see if you can get help with it to resolve your issue?
It depends. For me personally, it depends to the extent. So let's say if I paid like a lot of money for something for me, I try to go to customer support. But if, let's say, their customer support was so abysmal, I would absolutely turn to social media, because then it kind of turns the pressure up on a company. And they should, if they're really on top of their marketing, they should be seeing what people are saying and how they're reacting.
So your sense is, I mean, just to be frank, that social media is sort of a shaming opportunity, a way to shame a company into getting it right.
Not necessarily a shaming opportunity, but it can at least help put on a spotlight. Let's say if, I was dissatisfied with a service, it can at least bring it to attention. And it's kind of like a more organic version of like Yelp, except, they're seeing it, it's transparent. I mean, obviously, you could have people be manipulative and put up false posts. That's also another side of the coin, that a lot of misinformation goes out on social media.
If I have a problem with a product, with a product on social media, and I post, how fast should they get back to me, do you think? Like, at what point are they checked out, and at what point are they on it? How fast of a response would you expect?
It's tough to say. It really depends on the industry, I would say. I don't think there's any clear finite answer for that. It all depends. I mean, some companies are bigger than others. Some have agencies
For
that
you
they outsource their
personally,
social media.
for you personally as a consumer,
Yeah.
if you having a problem with a product and you post on social media, how soon would you expect to hear back from them?
I would expect my response time to be like 1 to 2 days.
1 to 2 minutes.
Days, not minutes.
1 to 2 days.
Yeah.
You're cool with that. You're cool with 1 to 2 days.
I mean, I have time. Yeah, I mean, I know everyone's different. That's me. I mean, my standard isn't the same as everybody else's.
Betsy, you have a different point of view on that. What do you expect?
So if this is a product and it's being given out to people, or I've purchased it online, I'm expecting a response within an hour. If they respond to me back and say, hey, we're going to get back to you within like 24 to 48 hours, we're going to investigate, that's a whole different thing. But at least they got back to me first off to let me know, okay, this is the expectation you should set, which I think is pretty good, like a business practice.
So you want them to acknowledge the comment. What if the acknowledge is just some auto-generated email? We've received your comment. It's not personal. We've received your comment and we will get back to you ASAP. Does that give you relief, or do you think, oh man, I'm just entered into some long queue and I don't know when I'm going to hear from them?
I think it's a bit disheartening, and I really hope an organization wouldn't be taking that approach, because especially if you're like a seller and you're selling something, obviously, is it more important to get the first sale, or is it more important to see the lifetime value of a customer throughout like their relationship with you? That's sort of how I see it.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Albert, do you expect companies to have a social media presence? Like if there's a company that you're doing business with or you bought something from and they don't have a social media presence, does that negatively impact your perception of them?
It's strange. I mean, because especially this day and age, I mean, both businesses large and small have some sort of social media presence. So if like they were just non-existent on, let's say, like Twitter or Instagram, I would question it.
What if they have an account on one of those channels, but they're not really replying to anyone? They're pretty much just sending out promotional links. What does that tell you about them?
They don't care. They're just trying to promote their products. I mean, that's what a lot of companies are doing anyway on social media, but they're kind of, have a little bit less care, and they're just pushing products rather than actually using the platform to engage with consumers. And they're ignoring how they can better themselves too, and like actually building a connection with their with their consumer base and getting a lifetime value from the people that go there.
Let's go over to Ian, because Ian, you were shaking your head there as he was talking. So, if you were to go to a company's Facebook page and you see, they're putting out these sort of links to different promos and things they want to sell and brags about their product and that type of thing, but they're not responding to anybody's comments. What does that tell you about their brand? How does that impact your perception of their brand?
I definitely don't think that's how companies should be using social media at all. Again, it's not an advertisement, right? So if they want to give me promotions, they better pay for those ads on Facebook or Instagram. When it comes to social media, I rather see kind of maybe how other people use their products, how their team looks like. And it becomes more of a channel where they can really engage with me. And if they're not responding, it just shows that they don't really care about their brand as well as their customers. And so it really gives me a bitter taste when I see companies just posting promotional items or sales, when what they should really be doing is, asking, engaging with their customers and asking what they want and having that dialogue, especially because it is a social media platform.
Does anybody disagree on the panel? No? Let's go back to you, Albert. And let me just ask another follow-up on this question about what you expect to find on a company's social media presence. So what makes a social media presence effective? Like, what companies have just a great social media account and you like them better? You like doing business with them better because of their social media, the way they use it.
Well, kind of similar to what Ian said, it's a company that just doesn't push out their product. They're actually kind of highlighting their consumers. So I know, like, for instance, some pages I follow on Instagram, I follow like a few car pages, but they'll highlight the owners of who owns those cars rather than always the model that they're putting out. And so it kind of gives it like, a personal touch to it. So it's when an account kind of relates it to the consumer and make them know that, hey, we're here because of you. I think that's when a company is beginning to do it right.
The note I would make is there's a difference between editorial and advertising content. And often companies don't distinguish that difference. And so they feel, well, this is my media channel, I'm just going to use it for advertising. But there's no classic advertising channel that we subscribe to, right? Advertising only works when there's editorial to support it. And so you make a very good point there about editorial, making sure that you have strong editorial content. If a company has a social media presence, should that social media presence be a branded social media presence, or should it be the social media presence of the person that works there communicating on behalf of the organization? What I mean is, sometimes in a social media account, you know, for the profile pic, they'll use the logo, and then you'll just have these sort of anonymous voices communicating on behalf of the logo, but you have no transparency into who's communicating on behalf of the brand. So let's go to you, Betsy, again on this one and ask, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, is it better to have personal profiles with people's faces who communicate on behalf of the brand, or is it better to have a branded account and have people communicate through that?
Okay. Well, that's a really great question, Eric. So I'll give an example, and it's probably because I'm biased and because I used to work there. Universal Studios Hollywood, the theme park, has a branded account. We use the company logo in the Instagram little profile icon. However, the page is run mostly by the employees of the theme park as well as guest submissions. So we interact a lot with the guests. We try to take photos with the guests as much as possible. We encourage guests to obviously take photos, as well as we do have a specialized social media team taking photos around the park. So it's very interactive. The thing about social media, it's not you with like a blowhorn shouting at people like buy my product or come visit my business. It's a conversation with a lot of different people. So you have to be open to hearing like a lot of different perspectives and a lot of like having the one-on-one, also having one to multiple people. You have to be open to that experience, especially on these different like social platforms.
Let's go over to Crystal. And Crystal, I want to ask you, which companies do you think have the best social media accounts?
Well, one in particular that I wanted to mention, you know, kind of because I think everyone would be a little familiar with this company, is H&M. And so I like what H&M does because they integrate each platform specifically to that particular audience. So, for example, in their website, they kind of use their blog and present it more of like a magazine. They also do kind of like what Albert mentioned in highlighting, you know, their customers as, you know, using certain influencers as brand ambassadors and creating content that way. Another thing that they do really well is they utilize Facebook for events, such as grand openings and, you know, the launch of collaborations and collections. And then they also use Pinterest really well. They have different boards that are specific to collections and collaborations. And I think a lot of brands haven't really tapped into how to specifically utilize each platform for that particular audience. So I think H&M does a really great job because they not only have their overall, you know, company, they have specific men's, children, and home kind of sectors that they have branched off to as well. And so I think they do really well, you know, by showcasing diverse, elements like within their models and photos, as well as, you know, supporting certain causes and things like that. So I think they've done a really great job with that.
Crystal, I want to talk for a second about Facebook Live, because my experience with Facebook, it's not appointment set, you know, content. I typically go there, waste time and see what's going on. But often, like if there's a Facebook Live, it's very hard for me to actually remember to go back and see it at the time when it is, because it's not appointment media for me. Is it for you? Do you use Facebook Live a lot? Do you watch a lot of things on Facebook Live?
You know, it's very difficult because, you know, if it's not something I'm particularly interested in and I just get a notification, it might not always be at the best time for me to watch live. And it's very rare that I'll go back and watch something. So I think if you're able to kind of give some sort of heads up, you know, like, hey, we're going to be live tomorrow at this time doing this, I think you'd have a better chance of capturing your audience, because it's a really, you know, it's really difficult to kind of pop in at the right time with the right message to kind of capture somebody's attention faster than, you know, a minute or two to see if this is something I want to stay on for.
Are any of you using Facebook Live, like going to Facebook Lives regularly? Any of you on the panel? Okay, Alexis, let's hear from you about Facebook Live. Tell us how you use it.
Yeah, so I'm the marketing coordinator for my school's events programming. So like before the pandemic, we'd have like International Cereal Mondays and Coffee Mondays where we like go around campus and just like tell students like what was happening. But due to the pandemic, you know, we couldn't be on campus anymore. So we switched to Facebook Live. So like we would put a post like Monday morning, like half an hour before the like show went on, just saying like, hey guys, you know, like get your like weekly news update from us, you know? So that's how we would use Facebook Live, and we'd go like weekly on there. And it was just like a good way to like still have that like personal connection with students.
Alexis, do you as a consumer go to any Facebook Live events regularly? Do you attend them?
No, the only Facebook Live that like I usually watch are like the YouTubers, but other than that, like from companies and stuff, I don't really watch them.
What about YouTube Live? Do you look at a lot of YouTube Live?
No, not YouTube Live. I would say I get a lot of more like Instagram Live notifications than like Facebook Live ones.
Nicole, what about you?
So for me, I have watched Facebook Live events, especially in the beginning of the pandemic. So that was a time where a lot of artists started sharing their work and getting together with other artists to share that with the public. And there were a couple of singers that I hadn't gone to the concert because they either hadn't been through town or just the situation didn't present itself. So during the beginning of the pandemic, I would say I would watch at least 2 Facebook Lives. And in general, you know, as time has progressed and artists are not posting that as often anymore, I do watch my church's service every Sunday. So that is the reason why I've watched Facebook Live, but not necessarily for brands or topics that I'm interested in and I follow on Facebook.
Ian, you mentioned that you like Twitch. Tell us, what is Twitch and what sort of live content do you watch on Twitch?
So Twitch is basically a live streaming platform that is predominantly gamers. So I love games and esports and video games. And so a lot of the live content kind of happens there. However, they have been trying to kind of move away from games so that they can expand their market, where people can just talk about different topics. They can do makeup, they can do their cosplay, anything like that. But again, Twitch, I would say is probably the king when it comes to live streaming.
Macy, you mentioned TikTok. You know, there was a story in the news, I didn't look at it, but something about people were saying, well, should we delete our TikTok? Maybe it's being used to compromise our privacy. Did you see that story?
Yeah, I've seen the news about TikTok probably being banned, or might be banned.
But there's no live content on TikTok, right? It's all on demand.
Some of the users host their own TikTok lives. They do have live streaming on TikTok.
They do. I didn't know that. And
Yeah.
do you want, like when you go to TikTok, do you ever go to TikTok and do you look at live first? What is your sort of consumption habits with respect to on-demand versus live on TikTok?
Well, TikTok is interesting because it posts some of the lives in between videos that you're scrolling through. And you can also see it at the top of your follows too. So I usually just, depending on whether I have time to watch a live or I enjoy that account more than others, that's usually how I view TikTok lives. I use Instagram live more often than TikTok live, but if I'm on TikTok and there's a live that I think I would enjoy, then I tend to watch it.
If you're finding this session useful, let us know on social media. The hashtag is Webinar Wednesday. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. Tweet it out there. Share it on LinkedIn. Share it on Facebook. For local restaurants, do you prefer that the local restaurant have a website where you can order from them, or do you prefer that they're on Yelp or DoorDash or one of these other sites? And let's hear from Simon on this one. Simon, what are your thoughts on restaurants and how they should be connecting with diners online?
Absolutely. I think primarily where local diners and cafes, restaurants get the most highlight is Instagram. I think that's probably one of the first places people go to check. And me personally, I definitely do that. I automatically see if they have an Instagram page, or if someone like goes there and has a tag for their account. That's immediately the first place I go. So I think social media presence is definitely a key. For website, I'm not too necessarily concerned about. I think if they have it, that's great. I think that's like a front page to advertise their products, but I'm not necessarily looking to do business on the website because I think other services like Uber, DoorDash, Grubhub makes it much easier for me to order. So I think that's where I am sticking towards when I'm like buying product. So if they have a website, great. If they don't, I'm probably just gonna find their Instagram or even like move on to Yelp, try to figure out what their products are like and stuff like that. So
what if they have their own website and they're on Yelp, but the prices on their website are different than the prices on Yelp? Which one do you believe?
Probably Yelp. I feel like Yelp is usually the most updated one because like consumers are the ones that are updating prices, and either they're complaining if it's or not. Oftentimes, I found that local restaurants don't update their website, especially in terms of like menu prices and stuff like that. Because this was about a year ago. We were checking out Korean barbecue places around Vegas, and we were like, okay, this place looks good, the prices look okay, and then we walk in and the prices were like almost double of what it was on the website. So it was definitely like a big turnoff, but that's why I tend to rely on Yelp.
What if you went to you ordered on Yelp and they charged you the prices on their website more? What would your reaction be?
So I've actually never ordered through Yelp, but if in a case where when I'm looking at their website and then I order through like a third-party service and then I get charged high, I am definitely going to question what was happening. Now I think there's much more leeway because of the pandemic, and a lot of like restaurants have started charging a little bit more because they're probably not finding more customers, or products are just expensive. So now maybe I'm like much more flexible with it, but if not, I'm probably gonna make a big deal about it, or just be complaining about it, because you can't advertise something for a much more cheaper price, and then when I'm like trying to buy the product, it's already more than what it originally is intended to be.
Michael.
Hi, Eric. I would love to chime in on this. This is an experience that happened to me a couple weeks ago in San Diego. My friend had been living there, working remotely from New York, and he just orders a lot of takeout. And we wore a mask and went into the local Thai restaurant. And first and foremost, I love supporting local restaurants. I love finding local hole in the walls. I think it's really great because you're supporting the local economy and you also get great food. I live here in Los Angeles. Anyhow, we looked at the menu and my friend was shocked at the prices. He's like, this is crazy. Like, they charge his card and there's like, you must get this wrong. Like, there's no way it's this cheap, because he had been getting it delivered to him this whole time. And then like, no, these are our prices. He didn't realize how much of a difference there was in the fees and how big the fees were on DoorDash and Uber, and on Grubhub. So I think that personally, for me, I do look at Yelp. I don't trust the reviews that much, if you want my honest opinion, because a lot of them are paid for. I do look at the pictures, and I do go to the company's local website. And then, especially ordering food now during COVID, I know that those restaurants get more money if I order directly from them. So I order directly from them, and then I go pick up the food.
All right, since you're in LA, I'm going to take a little segue here. Since you're in LA, I'm an LA native, born and raised, okay? I have a list of my 7 favorite local spots. I'm sharing it in the chat right now. There it is.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
It's been updated since COVID, and they're all serving. Okay.
Thank you.
If you're applying to a job at a company, how does the resume submission process impact your perception of their brand? Nicole, let's hear from you on this.
That's a great question, and it's something that I've thought about before. So asking for a resume on paper is kind of the norm for any application process. So whenever I see that a brand is asking for something different, whether that's a video, whether that is something out of the norm, it does make me connect with it more because I think about the people behind that company. When I want to join a company, I'm not joining a name or a brand. I am going to be working with a team and join a company culture. So when they have a different approach to me just sending a resume and it just has text, it does make me think more positively about the brand.
Anyone else want to add in on this? Have you had any sort of nightmare experiences applying to a company and thinking, man, these guys I would never want to work for them? Let's go to you, Simon.
So fortunately, I feel like I haven't had a bad experience, but I think the process of applying to a company definitely has a strong viewpoint about like what the company culture is like or how they treat the interview process or, just applying process, I guess. I've had instances where I go to sort of Glassdoor or LinkedIn, try to look at positions, and when I find a position, instead of like applying from LinkedIn directly, I go to their website and try to see how everything is. And their submission portal doesn't necessarily look good, then I'm just like, well, I don't necessarily know if like this is something that I want to resort to, and that's just me personally. And I think like this is going to be different for everyone because I think a lot of people use Glassdoor or LinkedIn to apply directly rather than applying through the company's portal. So definitely something that I feel like, something about the flow of submission, if it does not look updated or, if it looks kind of outdated, just is like, I don't necessarily know how I feel about this. I'm probably still going to apply, but, that will definitely put like a dent in my thought about how the company approaches employment.
Thanks, Michael, for sharing that link. I didn't send it to all panelists. So if you want to see the link to the restaurants, it's in the chat. Betsy, let's go to you and then we'll come to you, Priyanka.
All right, so I will throw out some brand names and some company names out here. So one of the worst job submission websites was by a large organization, Hallmark. And what really turned me off from their website was not only the layout, the submission process, we always joke about this in the community, and it's been a thing that we talk about many times on our trips about you copy and paste your resume or you submit your resume in and then it asks you to redo the application all over again, one by one. That was the same thing for this website. However, what they asked for was, in addition, 3 references. They wanted emails. They wanted physical addresses for all the job locations I've previously worked at. It was just very like old school, like something that just turned me off immediately just because I'm like, I don't want to spend more than like an hour on an application. I don't even want to spend more than 5 minutes on a job application. for a position at Hallmark for a company that I don't even know if I really want to join this organization. And then I've seen some other like great companies, and I'll shout them out here. Disney, when we've gone to their offices, we've seen their recruitment pages. They take a really active approach to their recruitment. They are going to universities. They are really actively, their website is very immaculate. It's very user friendly. It's very filtered. You can figure out what kind of jobs you can put your resume in, and they'll suggest jobs for you based on your resume. So they take a very active approach. So I think that's just the difference between companies. Like, you kind of get a feeling how they treat the lowest person in the company rung based on their submission process.
Priyanka, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I agree with Betsy. For me, it's all about convenience when it's coming to applying for jobs or internships, anything like that. So I love it, for example, when companies integrate a LinkedIn application into their application. So for example, they'll ask you to maybe fill out a couple of different entries, but they'll also say apply through LinkedIn. And if you connect your LinkedIn profile to the application, it'll automatically fill out several forms, parts of the form for you. So I don't have to worry about putting things such as my school or my major, my class year. It does all of that for you, and it really just streamlines the process, makes it a lot more efficient, which I love. And I also really like it when I'm just only required to put my resume and not individually type out each of my work experiences along with the description. I feel like it's kind of redundant, but in terms of having an application that will retain your information for the future, so for example, if I didn't get in this application cycle, but I want the application to retain my information for the following cycle, I do understand how that's needed. And for example, I just recently applied to an internship and it had all of my information from the previous cycle. I thought that was really convenient as well. But in general, just having a convenient way, either connecting the application through your other social media accounts, I just think that it reflects really well on the brand as a whole and how they just they recognize that your time is also valuable and that you're applying to many different things at once.
Jordan, let's go to you here. Let me ask you, do you think Facebook and Twitter should label, fact check, and label inaccurate information as false? Or do you think it should just be open and people should just decide themselves if something's false?
Yeah, this question has given me a lot of pause lately. I think in a perfect, unbiased world, fact-checking or labeling on social media would be a really valuable service for stopping the spread of highly circulated fake news. But I don't think the current practice is totally effective. It's really left up to interpretation by imperfect algorithms and biased individuals, which naturally just leads to errors. I actually found an example that I wanted to share. I'll post it in the chat. It's an image that was flagged by Facebook for being false, and it just says, "Women are funny." And so, of course, it went viral because it seemed silly that Facebook would mark something like this as false, when in fact, it's marked false because the image of the shark is photoshopped. And so their algorithms said, okay, this image is photoshopped, meaning it was manipulated, meaning it must be false. And so someone purposely manipulated the system to make it look like Facebook was finding the claim false. Another example of like the system breaking down is just when news sites interpret facts through their headlines, maybe inaccurately. It's not that they're not reporting true facts, but just the headlines maybe have like a certain spin on it or a certain perspective. And I've seen Facebook flag those as false as well. And so my gut says that we would greatly benefit from this, but until the algorithms or the analysts working on it are perfectly unbiased, which is never going to happen, the results aren't going to be perfect either. But I do think that a more beneficial approach to this would be to provide links to articles that either refute or clarify fake news and just let the users judge for themselves. If anything, it's going to increase media literacy, maybe, and just get the information out there that's true rather than just completely eliminating people's opinions that maybe are, not quite right.
Do you feel like social media posts influence your ideas on politics or news? Do you feel like you're sometimes sort of duped into maybe thinking the wrong thing and then you find out, oh my God, that wasn't even true? Has that happened to you?
Oh, absolutely. Time and time again, because people are sharing things without links, or maybe they're creating custom graphics where they attribute a false quote to, a person that didn't say it. But I think that's where media literacy comes in. If we can all just commit to doing the research, then we won't be duped by those things, and then it won't necessarily take away that freedom of speech element.
Michael, I want to talk to you for a second here. Let me just spotlight you. Should foreign governments be allowed to use social networks to try and influence our elections?
I think the answer is pretty obvious, no. But it's complex. I think that Jordan brought to light a very serious issue: is what is real and what is fake, right? And then even if an individual puts something up that isn't true, Facebook won't flag it. I mean, I think an obvious example of this recently was with Deshaun Jackson with the Hitler quote that wasn't Hitler. And then it just kept going viral and it, it was terrible, it was anti-Semitic, but it was
Debunk it for us. Tell us what happened. For those who missed it, summarize what happened.
I mean, Deshaun Jackson's a NFL football player for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he was posting a quote he thought was from Hitler. And was talking about, I mean, you'll have to look it up, but he was talking about a lot of different things, and it just wasn't true. It wasn't factual. And it was obviously offensive to the Jewish community, which I am a member of. And it just wasn't true. And so people, some of my friends even, and I got into a position like this where he reposted it, and I was trying to help clarify the truth in it. And, and talk about Louis Farrakhan and explaining what was going on, and just talking about how anti-Semitism still is prevalent. I had somebody message me today that he didn't know that Jews had still been attacked since the Holocaust. And I was like, you're kidding me. You don't know about the shooting in San Diego. You don't know about the shooting in Pittsburgh. So anyhow, and the countless anti-Semitism and how it's rising in New York City and here in Los Angeles. So anyways, when I think that, but here's the rub, and here's the hard part, is where in America, we have the freedom of speech, right? And I don't ever want to intrude on someone's freedom of speech. But I think that Jordan's idea of, making sure that there's links to clerically, source information. I'm sorry, there's a call coming in. I apologize. Let me try to hang that up. Okay. So anyways, if there are links, I'm so sorry about this. This is
all right. That's okay. Let's go to Nicole for a second. How has coronavirus changed the way you buy things, and how has it changed your outlook on the future?
That's a really good question. So in the past, I used to buy things in person. I was not a big online shopper at all. And after the coronavirus happened, I started buying more things online. And the things that I bought were also different. So let's say I'm still in college. So in a semester, I would go to Boston and I would go to a couple of malls and maybe buy a shirt to something for the season, right? And when everything happened, I started reflecting on what were the things that I really needed. Because I didn't need a new coat. I didn't need new earrings. I didn't need many of the things that I was buying before. I needed food. I needed things that were, comfortable for the summer. So I guess to summarize it up, I started buying more online, and I started changing the things that I bought. A big thing that I started buying was, or in greater quantity, was food. So because we're at home, I know this has happened to many of us, we snack way more than we did before because the kitchen is right there. So I know between a couple of friends and I, we had each other's addresses. And so we sent each other the snacks that we knew they liked. And how has coronavirus impacted the way I look at the future? So that is something that has impacted the way I think about humanity and how complex our human brain is. So I used to think that we're more on the rational side, right? But with so many things, like it's part of taking care of ourselves and other people around us to wear a mask. And in social media and on the news, I've seen how many people don't want to use masks, and they have the reasons behind it. So this pandemic has really brought up the fact that it's not only about stating facts and being convincing, but every person has their own set of beliefs. They have their values, they have their own culture, and they have so many other things that influence the way they think and the way they behave. So in terms of how I think about the future, I think I'm more aware about how complex our minds are. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm just more aware of it.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it's something I've been thinking a lot about. 2 weeks ago, I had Joseph Fromm, or Rom rather, on this webinar. He's a MIT PhD of physics who talked about the science of persuasion. And what he said, and pretty much what this book says, and it's, I'm not crazy about the title, but it's a phenomenal book. What he basically argues in this book is that the science says that we respond more to stories than we do to facts. Our brains are programmed to respond to stories. And so, it's funny because when we had the Enlightenment and the scientific revolution, education changed. And we said, you know what, it's not going to be about rhetoric anymore. It's going to be about science now. And we got the SAT and we learned all these, 4 and 5 and 6 syllable words. But the truth is, those big words just make it tough for people to understand what we're saying in the first place. So it's the people who speak in single syllable and double syllable words, who speak in rhyme, who speak in metaphor, who speak in analogy, who speak in alliteration, and who use story that get through to us. And there are 3 emotions they get through to. They either stimulate awe, which is positive, or anxiety and anger, which is negative. And, that's what the science shows. The science shows that politically and on the marketing side, from an advertising side, you think about like the slogans that last, like a rock, just do it, built to last, the few, the proud. They're very simple. They're very simple, and they're designed to evoke a simple emotional response. Okay, Monica, I want to go to you here for a second. Let me just bring you up. Are you, hold on one sec. Let me just bring her up to spotlight. Monica, any brands you're seeing do a good job on TikTok?
That is a good question, but at the exact same time, it also depends on the user too on TikTok. Like, for example, I like learning about different share skills like marketing, or I like watching movies too. So there's it's just that it's a generalized content that the algorithm showcases to you, and what's your niche? What do you like to watch? What's your favorite content? And then that algorithm will choose your content and on the For You page. So I see a lot of new users who I follow. I see a lot of new users who are having marketing stuff that I follow, or new movies, or catch up. It just depends on what is your likes and dislikes too. And if you, especially I do see ads on TikTok too, but it's more like HBO Go, or new edit software for different apps that you could just download, or they push you into games that you like. But it's at the same time that I stated before, that depends on the algorithm and what's your taste too, because it could be different from everybody as well.
Well, I want to thank you all for taking the time to do this. I mean, I could go another hour because I'm so fascinated with what you have to say. And I want to apologize to anyone that I didn't give enough screen time to. I certainly did my best to move it around with the questions that I had. I want to thank also Bill Amata of the IW Group in Los Angeles for setting up today's call. you know, I am so appreciative to you for making this opportunity available to me and to folks who are participating. Next week, we have a very interesting guest. Her name is Kate Bradley Chernus. She's the CEO of a startup, a new company that developed a web-based tool that uses artificial intelligence to auto-generate social media posts based on the content you want to share. It's a new tool. It's called Lately. And Gary Vee recently tweeted about it. It's online at trylately.com. I've been experimenting with it and it's amazing. It picks out the things in your content that you should share that are most likely to go viral. So Katie's going to talk all about artificial intelligence, and she's actually going to make Lately available to everyone for free who attends next Wednesday's session. So sign up at prtechwednesdays.com. And then the following Wednesday after that, July 29th, we have a panel on the state of travel PR with Trevor Marshall of TJM Communications, Carol Monroe, Senior Director of Brand Communications at a major hotel chain. I'm not allowed to say the name of it, but you would know them. And Brittany Girton, who leads communications for Visit Sarasota County. So sign up at prtechwednesday.com and you'll get reminders and a link to the replay if you can't join us. For those participating in the session on Zoom, after we end, you're going to be directed to a page where you can get free lifetime access to my SEO for PR course, which will teach you everything you need to know to search optimize web content. If you're watching on Periscope, LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, you can ask questions and participate live in any of the upcoming sessions, again, by signing up at prtechwednesdays.com. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, please help us grow our community by rating us and leaving us a comment. You can also sign up for amazing bonus content on my blog at ericschwartzman.com/blog. This has been Eric Schwartzman. I want to thank you all for coming, and we'll see you on the next PR Tech Wednesdays. So long.